you have to remember with all these countries, the entire framework is different. These are Islamic-based countries. So there's not this whole concept of separation between church and state. And you have to understand.
A lot of it is Sharia law?
To understand, no, it's not hard Sharia law either. But to understand these countries, you have to understand that the highest thing, okay, if you were to think of what's the, at least in theory, what is the highest value and aspiration in the USA? That's a question.
The highest value and highest aspiration?
Yeah, what's the thing that the US always talks about and aims to be the #1 at?
Oh, GDP?
No, I was going to, liberty. Freedom.
Yeah, oh, freedom. Gotcha.
Right?
I'm thinking about the money.
Freedom.
I was going to say money.
Yeah. So if you, I mean, that's actually interesting, right?
It's all about the money.
It's all about the money now, yeah. But freedom is like the top aspirational value. That's the American dream. It's freedom, freedom, liberty, freedom, right? You have to understand with these nations and many others. This goes for China. This goes for many African countries and so on. Freedom/liberty is not the top value in every country and society. Right? Yeah. So if you're looking at South...
Why is that, by the way?
Well, one would have to make the argument, why should it be?
Maybe they've never had it, so they don't know any better.
I mean, I don't think it's a simple question. I mean, okay, look at the last few years that we lived through. And you know my thoughts on the whole pandemic situation, right? But we learned that actually most people value the feeling of safety more than they value freedom. Even in all these so-called Western democracies, how did they treat their citizens? Ooh, there's a little virus going out there. What happened to all your freedoms? What happened to all your liberties? What happened to all your rights? Right? So
taken away under the guise of safety, right?
So for example, if you think of, so someone would have to make an argument, and by the way, like I actually naturally lean more libertarian, but the idea that liberty is the highest value that a nation or a society or a culture should aim for is very much up for debate. That's not a given. I think if you live in the USA or you were born in the UK, it's almost assumed, oh yeah, of course, that's the #1
well,
thing.
we all still, like, did the Pledge of Allegiance and sang the song,
think of all
Land of the Free, Home of the Brave. America, baby.
Look at it. Think of all these conversations we're even having. Right. What are the downstream consequences, right? So there's places where they're like, okay, our top value might be safety, right? We want everyone to be safe. We want low crime. We don't want druggies all over the street. We want another top value might be adherence to a certain religion or faith, and everything is downstream of that. Another place could be like, hey, we want to make the most family-friendly environment, city, nation, whatever it is. So every country has a different sort of hierarchy of these values. So that's why when you're looking at something like a freedom index, in my view, it's going to paint a distorted picture. Because this is assuming that the top value, they might be looking at, oh, how tolerant are they of homosexuality and cannabis, right? Like this could be, can I eat bacon there? Can I drink beer? You know, like, look, who you are, depending on who you are, depending on your proclivities, the things that are important to you, there's going to be different places for different people. This is why, even in the USA, you have 50 states. What's happening? Why are people moving from New York to Florida? Why are people moving out of California and going to Utah, going to Texas and so on? It's like, wait, hey.
For more freedom, probably.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. People are voting with their feet.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is true globally. So I'm not here to say like, hey, everyone go move to the Middle East. Everyone come to Dubai. Everyone go move to Saudi Arabia or something. There's plenty of people who it utterly does not make sense for them. It's not the best place. But there are many people who, hey, maybe Doha would be good for you. Maybe Oman might make sense for you. Depending on who you are, depending on your family situation, depending on what job you have. There's so many factors that go into it all. So we've talked about some of the pluses, and I think we've also touched on some of the negatives here.
What were those?
As answering the question. So if the things that are massively important to you, or you massively value, I don't know. Again, it depends on the country.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Moving to
finish
Dubai,
let him finish the cons.
This is what he'll answer this here.
Sure.
But moving to Dubai, what do you value there that you're moving there versus maybe another place that you've experienced traveling so much?
Sure. Okay. Honest answer. It will save me millions of dollars over the course of time, millions of pounds in taxes that I'd otherwise be having extorted from me from the government. It is extraordinarily safe. So you actually have, look, here's a question. Are you free if you don't have a basic level of safety? Are you free in San Francisco? Are you free if you can't wear, I have something I've coined called the Rolex test. And I think if you're in a city where you're not comfortable wearing a Rolex or another nice watch out on about on the street, and you don't even have that freedom because someone's going to come and jack you, how free are you? Right? If I can walk around, if I can leave whatever, and I don't need to be constantly thinking about basic safety, then there's a level of freedom there. There's a level of freedom in not having 30, 40% of your money being extorted out of you every year by the government. Fantastic facilities, infrastructure, great place to raise future children. All of these things are very attractive, very easy to set up a business and run it out of there. In terms of the things that are the downsides, for me personally, a lot of it doesn't affect me. I don't drink alcohol anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't do drugs. I don't smoke weed. I'm pretty conservative in how I even operate. There's nothing I can do in Miami that I want to do that I can't do in Dubai.
Fair enough.
Right?
Now, when it comes to your businesses, is most of your businesses coming out of the U.S.?
Very global.
Okay.
Very global.
So just to kind of, I see what you're saying, that it's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on what you value.
Absolutely.
Like if you ask any mother in any country, what's your number one concern for your child? That would be safety.
Yeah, it's not going to be
no
freedom.
doubt.
It's not going to be freedom.
It's not necessarily freedom. But, you know, so on one end of the spectrum, it's almost like freedom to do whatever the hell you want, right? And on the other end of the spectrum is don't fucking kill me, okay? So in America, we were founded on what? Rugged individualism. Do what the hell ever you want to do. Like, go west, young man. So you use San Francisco as an example, okay? Or if you ever go to Portland, or if you go to Seattle, it's an absolute shit show.
It's terrible.
Literally. But, you know, this is where Silicon Valley is. This is where Nike was founded. The economic output is insane out there. But if you go, you know, this is my opinion, I don't know. But if you go to certain countries in the Middle East, like, you don't even have the freedom to say what you want to say, do what you want to do, drink what you want to drink. So a lot of people will be like, yeah, I guess I'm safe if I shut the fuck up and do what they say.
By the way,
so there is that nuance.
Dude, in the UK, you're not free to say whatever you want to say. In Australia, you're not free to say what you want to say. In Canada, in Ireland, in these countries, apart from the USA is the only of these countries that has freedom of speech properly enshrined.
Yeah.
In the UK, in Australia, and Canada, you can be arrested. I know people who have been arrested for things they've said in the real world or online. There's comedians being arrested for telling jokes, right? So
maybe they just weren't that funny.
so I think I think there's a little bit of a facade here, you know. And look, I think the whole thing is extremely complicated. There was something that you brought up. There was a point you were making, and I wanted to jump. Oh, I know the point. The liberty in the USA, the liberty and freedom, for that to operate optimally, you need to have substructures and foundational pillars that coincide with them. Not at the state level and the governmental level. I'm talking religion, I'm talking family, I'm talking solid moral foundations. That the idea that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. We all understand this, right?
Right.
Just because you have the freedom to do something, it doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's moral. It doesn't mean it's pro-social and it's generally good for yourself or your nation and so on. We all understand this. So I think one of the biggest problems that the USA is facing, the USA especially, but you could extend this to other Western countries, is these pillars have been attacked. These pillars have been eroded, right? The parent and child dynamic, marriages, families as a whole, both nuclear and extended, religious faith, all the other things that keep people sane and in line and acting properly, those things are being eroded. So if you have that and then it's just like, hey, but liberty, then what happens is you ultimately descend into chaos and anarchy. And what's funny is people don't actually like that, right? We have almost this idea that like the more liberty you give someone, the happier they're going to be. And that's not true. If you go into a restaurant and the menu looks like a Bible and you've got 1,000 different options, that's not great. Now you're like, what do I even do, right? You need some boundaries and things in place. And again, this doesn't have to come from the state. This doesn't have to come through hard laws and so on. But you need certain boundaries and things in place and things to aspire towards in order for people to live properly and not end up in a Portland or a Seattle or a San Francisco or
you
so
look like
on.
you want to weigh in on this.
Well, the number one country was Switzerland.
Yeah.
And after living there for 10 years, Penelope was born there. there are some very fundamental things that are intact there. And you have not the right to bear arms, for example. Only people who are in the military, Swiss citizens, are allowed to bear arms. And it's like there's a lot of regulations, like you're describing, that create that liberty. You have to be insured. There's no homelessness. There's very low crime. They keep a lid on everything. So even though it's considered the most free, number one on that list, it's exactly proving what you're describing.
Yeah, and that also shows that, so some people think of freedom on one end and safety on the other. That's a false dichotomy.
It is.
That's not how it is. As I was even saying, to even have true freedom, you have to have a degree of safety. If you can't, we've got lots of attractive young women on this panel, like if you can't go outside after sunset or you're scared to, like, is that freedom?
That's so
right?
many countries, though.
I know it's many countries, but it's not Dubai.
But who's to blame?
Have you ever been to Dubai?
No, I have not.
It's this is one of the funniest things about those Gulf countries as well, is because people have this idea, oh, well, what about women?
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, women are so much safer in those cities than they are in London, than they are in New York, LA, whatever. It's not. I actually laugh that people even compare them. Like it's not even comparable. They're so much safer. And like I said, look, there are trade-offs. For some people, it might even just be the heat. Some people won't live in Miami or won't live in Dubai. You know, it's just too hot. It's too humid. And that's fair enough. I wouldn't.
Miami's the best place in the world, 9 months out of the year.
Yeah, man.
Not in the summer, though.
Different people.
So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another, or if you want to watch the entire SOSCAST, click right here.